Hey, I'm talking this whole month about digging your heels. That just simply means refuse to change your mind. About what? About pursuing the dreams and the goals that God has put in your heart. I believe, and I am absolutely convinced, that every single person has been born, has been created for a purpose. You just read Jeremiah 1:5 and you can discover that you are not an accident, you're not a mistake, you haven't made too many mistakes. God still wants to use you. He still has a plan for your life, and He's telling you, get moving. The time to get moving is right now. You don't have another year to waste. But you know, Satan is your enemy, and he is going to tirelessly work against you to get you to give up on your dreams, to give up on what God created you to do. So you have to learn to dig in your heels. Refuse to change your mind. You know, one of the biggest enemies to your success is fear. That's the way Satan operates. He works through fear. Fear of never changing, fear of never reaching your goals. No matter what it is, you know, a fear that you'll never get out of debt. You are going to struggle with this debt till the day you die. Fear that you will never get married. You've been praying for how many years for a spouse and you're still not married? It's never going to happen. Fear that you are never going to lose that weight. How many diets have you been on? You're just never going to lose the weight. Fear of, you're never going to succeed. It seems like everything you try fails. That's how Satan works, is through fear. And he can torment us. I mean, absolutely torment us and harass us with fear to such a degree that we just give up altogether. Just give up on the dreams, give up on the goals, just forget it. That's exactly what Satan is hoping. Do not glorify Satan. Don't give him what he wants. Don't give him your future. You know, one of my favorite scriptures is 2 Timothy 1:7. I learned this scripture when I was a little girl because I was afraid of stuff. And my parents would have me memorize that. God has not given me a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. I remember teaching it to my daughter when she was little. And she'd be in her room, and I had the little baby monitor, by her bed and one by my bed. And sometimes when she would get afraid or something, I would hear her say, in third person, kind of like Elmo, she'd go, how Elmo would say, Elmo, hungry. Well, my daughter Cassidy, she would go, Cassie don't have spirit of fear. Cassie don't have spirit of fear. And I would just be like, oh, she melts my heart. But anyway, you have to realize God did not give you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. I like the translation that says power, love, and self-discipline. You can conquer this fear. Like I said, you may have fear of never changing, fear of never getting over your past. Maybe Satan's messing with your mind, reminding you of the past, tormenting your mind with things you went through years ago. And maybe he's harassing you with that fear. You're never going to get beyond it. You're never going to get beyond that abuse, that abortion, that divorce, whatever it is. That is Satan's tactic to get you to stop dreaming, to stop living, to stop doing what you were born to do. And what's interesting is, Job, he actually said, that which I so greatly feared has come upon me. So what happens is, when your fears are so big on the inside of you, the very thing you fear is actually what's going to attract in your life. That's what you're going to attract. It's amazing. Your fears, they're actually keeping you bound to the very thing you don't want to happen in your life. That which I so greatly feared came upon me. You fear you're never going to get out of debt? That's exactly what's going to happen. So you have to overcome those fears. In fact, listen to this story. This is just from a success book that I read, and it just proves how powerful fear is. Just in the negative, how powerful fear is and how it can affect your life in such a dramatic way. Listen to this. It was about a guy named Nick Sitzman. It says he was a strong, healthy, ambitious young railroad yardman. He had a reputation as a diligent hard worker, a loving wife, 2 kids, and many friends. One midsummer day, the train crews were informed that they could quit an hour early in honor of the foreman's birthday. While performing one last check on some of the railroad cars, Nick was accidentally locked in a refrigerator boxcar. When he realized that the rest of the workmen had left the site, Nick began to panic. He banged and shouted until his fists were bloody and his voice was hoarse, but nobody heard him. With his own knowledge of the numbers and the facts, he predicted the temperature to be 0 degrees. He knew it would be. He did it all the time. So he predicted it's 0 degrees. Nick's thought was, if I can't get out of here, I'll freeze to death. Wanting to let his wife and family know exactly what happened to him, Nick found a knife and he began to etch words on the wooden floor. This is what he wrote. He said, it's so cold, my body is getting numb. If I could just go to sleep, these may be my last words. The next morning, the crew slid open the heavy doors of the boxcar and they found Nick dead. An autopsy revealed that every physical sign of his body indicated that he had frozen to death. And yet, here's the interesting part, the refrigeration unit of the car was inoperative. The temperature inside indicated 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Nick had killed himself by the power of his own thoughts. Is that like shocking? Like it just kind of gives you chills. It was 55 degrees Fahrenheit in the boxcar, but he just knew in his mind, he just knew that it had to be 0 degrees. He was convinced it would get to 0 degrees, and if it got to 0, I'm gonna die. He actually thought himself to death. The last paragraph I love, it says, you too, if you're not careful, you can kill yourself with your limiting thoughts. Not all at once like Nick Sitzman, but little by little, day by day, until you have slowly deadened your natural ability to achieve your dreams. That's pretty powerful. So, your fears will actually stop you from doing what God's called you to do. You know, fear is what activates Satan's power in your life. Doesn't that just gross you out? Fear is what activates Satan's power in your life. Well, the opposite of that is faith. Faith is what activates God's power in your life. So it becomes obvious. You got to get rid of fear and you got to get more faith. How do you get more faith? Romans tells us that faith comes by hearing the word. Every time you hear the word, faith is going to come. So my challenge for you is I want you to get your hands on some faith-building messages and hear the word. Even if it's these podcasts that you just listen to several of them over and over and over, or every day you wake up, push play and watch a podcast or listen to it, because faith is what you need to get rid of all that fear that Satan's trying to use to stop you from pursuing your dreams. So I want you to do that. Listen to the word more than you ever have before, and I'm telling you, you will not regret that. Dig in your heels no matter how it feels. I'll see you next week.